We've all had them, whether it be at work, school, and even the places we may spend our recreational time. Yes, as long as the system of things goes on, we all will endure the pains and temptations. But what about Christ? Our Christ, Jesus, was tempted more than what any of us could have borne because he was a perfect man. But out of all the temptations that Jesus went through, there's one that stands out more than all the rest, as recorded at Matthew chapter 4 and verse 5. As we read this verse, let's picture how this could have taken place. Again, friends, that's Matthew chapter 4 and verse 5. And that reads, "Then the devil took him along into the holy city and stationed him on the battlement of the temple." Now, we've gotten Matthew's perspective on this. Now, let's get a different perspective on this at Luke's perspective, his perspective on this. That's Luke chapter 4 and verse 9. Again, that's Luke 4:9. That reads, "He then led him into Jerusalem and stationed him on the battlement of the temple and said to him, 'If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down from here.'" Did you notice that Matthew's account says the devil took Jesus, and how Luke's account says the devil led Jesus into Jerusalem and stationed him on that battlement of the temple? But how was this possible? Did Satan physically take Jesus to the battlement of the temple when tempting him? Now, we can't be sure whether or not Jesus actually went to the battlement of the temple physically or by means of a vision, but let's reason on the many different possibilities. First, there had been two other temptations by Satan. The first, tempting Jesus by means of food, because we know at Matthew chapter 2, verses 2 through 4, Jesus had been fasting for 40 days and 40 nights. And the second temptation, taking Jesus to an unusually high mountain, showing Jesus all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. Now, we know that there is no mountain high enough to see all the kingdoms of the world. But Jesus was fasting for 40 days and 40 nights. He could have been hungry. So, in this situation, we have one temptation that could have been physically real, and another that could have just been, well, a vision. So, this kind of puts us right back in the same spot of, did Satan physically tempt Jesus? In the past, our publications have reasoned on this matter. For instance, our March 1961 Watchtower explained, "It does not seem reasonable to place a literal construction on all that appears in the account of Jesus' temptation. Just as there is no literal mountain that Satan could have taken Jesus and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory, so we can't be certain whether Satan actually took Jesus and stationed him on the battlement of the temple," which again, friends, is the highest point of that temple, which the research did not include the sanctuary. It could have been the southeastern corner, which has a drop over some 450 feet to the ground of the Kidron Valley. In addition, if Jesus did stand there, our research material explains that it would cause so much commotion in that land. But that term temple means the entire temple complex. We know Levites were the only ones to be, well, at the sanctuary. But being on that battlement, it could have been fine. So we can never really know if Jesus actually stood on that temple physically. Again, friends, we can't be sure. Based on all the facts we've gone through, Jesus could have went to the battlement physically or by means of a vision. We've also talked about two other temptations that Jesus had went through and compared them to this one. But again, as 21st century Christians and not first century Christians, we couldn't have known what really happened. But what's the main point? When it comes down to this, as said in the beginning of this talk, temptations. We're all going to have them, whether it be at work, school, and even where and how we spend our recreational time. Yes, as followers of Christ, just as Jesus set the example in rejecting those temptations, even if they were physical or by means of a vision, we know that those temptations were real. And Jesus gave the exact same conclusive answer to every single one of them. That answer was, for it is written, for it is written, for it is written.